What's going on, guys? It's LadyB. Now I'm back after about 2 weeks now, almost off, having to take a little bit of a break, being sick, and as you can hear, I'm kind of losing my voice, so I will be back to some streaming and content creation, but doing it as I can and making sure that I can bring you these strategy guides. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Electrone in Town Hall 11. Now we do see it quite a bit spread out in 11, 12, and 13, but I do want to showcase where it can be used not just with Electron Lalos, but also in ground. So stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you know when these strategy guides go live. If you're new to the Electron entries, the basic components to bring are obviously going to be that Edrag in your CC. Make sure it's maxed. You know you can request these now specifically. A Loon to come along with it, and a clone spell. And make sure you have a Rage. Rage gets a lot more value with it. It's not always necessary, but it is at this level typically better to have. And I always find it's better safe than sorry to have that as an option, particularly if you're working on those Loons to spread out in those defenses. More times than not, you're coming in a very heavily saturated defensive area to take out a Queen, an Eagle, the CC. Think of bringing a freeze so you can hold on to that CC. These are very important things to think about, is what's going to happen as soon as you get in there. What are you trying to hold off? What's going to be targeting you, and how do you get it all down? So those are the things to think about. And just make sure, if you're toying between the option of the Stone Slammer and the Blimp, that when you're going with the Blimp, you know the direction it's going to go into that town hall. You know where it's going to cross over, but you do have the option of sending in the Stone Slammer. Just make sure it's going to specifically target the defenses you want along the way, which might mean using your heroes to create that pathing directly to where you want to go. Now, don't forget the option of being able to actually use your heroes later on. Delay them slightly if you can pick up the value needed, if you can send that Blimp or Slammer in and not have to use them right off the bat, because you can actually shape up a nice path for ground troops and work everything together. So I want to use this particular raid to start off with as an example of an Electron, just for the simple fact that we actually see Yuya come in and clear up the outside pathing for the Stone Slammer to come in. And we often see this, clearing out a path for your Blimp, for your Slammer to work in and get your Electron siege entry in exactly where you need to. So he lines up the King and Queen on opposite ends, taking on those defenses and creating a nice easy path. Now, we do often see Blimps in place of the Stone Slammers just because of the pathing, but he's smart to use this because he can easily go right into the defense that he wants to, not worrying about an exact placement or something going astray. It picks up that multi-targeting Inferno, which is big value, and works its way in to get to the Queen. And as you can see, coming in, and we get a little bit of a pull on the CC as well. So he's got great value on this. Now, one anomaly that you're going to notice, which is not going to happen anymore unless maybe you delay the clone, is that we're going to see the Edrag actually get cloned and not the Loon. Now, because of the change in the update, where the Loons would be the first housing space to come out of your CC, you're gonna, more times than not, almost always, actually see those Loons now get cloned, unless, like I said, you were to delay it and try and specifically target that Edrag, but you don't get necessarily the best value. Now you can see here, he's created such great pathing with just a Sui hero entry, kind of cleaning up the outskirts and that Electron portion, and that's the great thing about it. Between using your heroes and not having healers or anything like that going around, and just your siege machine in your CC, you're picking up nearly 40 and even sometimes 50% of the base with these entries and taking on key components. And the pathing is created for this Lalo where it's a little bit more narrow than we would have seen. They've got a nice direct path to continue through, so it really does create some extra value within it. And so much so for this particular raid that we actually see 3 spells swagged in it. You can see here he's still left over with 2 freezes and the haste because it was such easy pathing through for this Lalo portion, and he took on a lot of those air hitting units earlier on in the raid with that Sui portion. So really smart use of the Electron in this particular one for the value created. Now continuing on with the Electron Lalo portion, we'll get into the way to use it with ground momentarily. But to continue on this, I want to showcase another way to go about the Electron opener. And instead of suing your heroes, you can also pick up value by using an Ice Golem. And we see Yuya do that again with this. And using the Ice Golem to actually tank for the queen coming in, he can create really nice value with those heroes again, with just a little extra bump to make sure that he can get his queen into that multi-targeting chamber. Just needs to get through that first layer to get the queen access to knock that out. So really smart use of this, and still get some nice cleanup value and a great way to shape up this base. So that Ice Golem obviously comes in to help tank for the queen, and he's able to send in some wall breakers to work their way in, having to freeze the multi on this, unless you were to use some super wall breakers, which we can use now, which means you wouldn't have to actually freeze this. You'd have a little extra spell component. So that's another thing to think about with these, and how you can use some of your troops. But works the queen in to take out the multi, and as you can see here, the king is the one to finish up the funneling for this Electron entry. So sending in a Loon, again, another key thing you're going to want to do here for an Electron entry is to send in a Loon to do some tanking and pick up, well, not tanking, but to serve as a Coco Loon and pick up any possible traps along the way. But he's got easy access coming in here. You can see we have the Electron portion coming in, knocking out a huge chunk of this base. The Edrag's right there at the queen, right there at the CC, and a freeze here goes such a long way, holding up the CC, holding up the queen, and allowing that Edrag to work through, knock them out, and pick up that Eagle Artillery. So that is incredible value here. Again, he's knocked out nearly half this base with the Electron hero entry. So these are super powerful, and you can see the division that's left over in this. Again, nice, easy, narrowed out pathing for the Lalo to push through and work its way in. So that's the value that you're getting with these Electrons, particularly when you're working with air. And one of the things to highlight as well is you're taking on those ground troops when you're working your way in. So any of those ground targeting troops, it's a way to work your way in to take those out so that the Loons don't have to necessarily worry about it, and you're spending less time, particularly if it's a hound in the CC, having to worry about a queen charge or anything like that. So it's a nice alternative. I'm starting to prefer this, and I think it's gonna have to be something I'll try on my 11. But let's get to the ground portion and see how it works with ground. Now, the one thing starting off I'm gonna say is Sherlock did not take all those routes of clearing out the pathing, but he did bring the Loon to make sure that he tanked or picked up any traps. So basically a Coco Loon, which when you send it in front, is scouting out for any air traps that would get in the way. And when it picks up like a black bomb, it's gonna drop just like a coconut falling out of a tree. So he sends this in place, but he doesn't clear anything out with his heroes at first. So I find that really interesting, but still a very powerful push through. And if you haven't actually seen my Town Hall 12 video on Electron Hogs, it's another key one to look at to see how well this can work, this entry with ground. So he sends that blimp in, heading straight towards that 12 o'clock corner here and picking up such nice value along the way. Again, dropping that Loon in front to make sure that it's picking up any possible traps and tanking a little bit for those defenses as it approaches. But he comes in, knocks out that queen, doesn't quite get as far as getting to the Eagle Artillery, but it's an easy path in for the miners to work through. And this is where we see the king being delayed, the heroes actually being delayed for the cleanup on it. And this is where we see the additional percent coming in. So he knew he could get some decent value there, get a little bit more out of his heroes by delaying them. And still picking up exactly what he needed out of that. And you can see the wizard who's over in the 11 o'clock side of the base, who actually gets great value because there are no defenses for him to actually have to worry about. And this not only, the delay not only gives him a nice power through, but you can see his heroes are still going strong. That delay allows his heroes to keep everything funneled in. So if you think about the way he's used this, it's almost like having an RC, like having an extra hero, because he was able to pick up such great value without having to use the heroes at first. So if you're able to do that, if you know you can get that the blimp in or a slammer in and pick up that value and delay your heroes, you can see the power you get out of it with having the assist of your king or queen walking along the outskirts and coming in to continue that path moving forward. Now, she unfortunately gets hung up on the hound here, but he kept those miners so well in line, and very smart to hold that heal here for the back end. But he kept them so well in line that he really was able to spare so many miners, so many left over here in the end. And again, really shows the power of an Electron entry and what value you can get from it. Thanks for tuning in. I will be dropping some more new content as the days go along, so stay tuned for more Town Hall 11, 12, and 13 content to come. Huge shout out to Cold September. Welcome back to the competitive scene. Great to see you guys, and you're absolutely crushing it. Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think about this particular strategy, if it's something you're using, even if you're not a Town Hall 11, because we see this in Town Hall 12, Town Hall 13 as well. So let me know what you think if you're using it, and if you try it out, how it goes for you. Until next time, this is LadyB. I'll catch you guys later.